Why are you betraying Ramaphosa? What's going on?
Yeah, well, we're not, our members are not betraying Ramaphosa. It's, what we do with this index, we measure actually what's going on there, what is the actual facts out there. And we're following the trend in some economic variables and in some market variables, and that is some variables that actually have a strong influence on the business climate, and that in the end affect your business confidence at the level of the businesses. And this is what we measure each month, and that is actually a technical measurement that we do each month to see how that business climate is moving and how it will be influencing your business confidence.
Yeah, and it certainly appears to be bad, because looking at the numbers here, you are saying 4 out of the 13 sub-indices of that BCI, that index, only were positive. The rest 9 were negative. Which were the worst?
Well, I mean, we look at it month on month. First of all, you know, month on month you can have big variations in terms of the indices, and there we had 4 positive, 4 negative, and then 5 not moving actually. But if you look year on year, the picture turns. You could get a clearer picture of what's actually going on. And if you look year on year, from the 7 real economic activity indices that we follow, only 2 of them were negative in terms of where we were last year May. So there's definitely positive movement in terms of real economic activity. And then if you look at the financial indices, you see 3 of them being positive in terms of last year. So that is all indicating to you that we're moving positively. Only one financial index actually was negative. That was the JSE All Share Index. But the rest of them were all sort of positive. And what we say this month, although we have a figure of 94 coming down from 96 in April, the main cause for that was actually found in issues you can't actually manage from inside South Africa. It's got a lot to do with exports, imports, fuel prices, and that type of thing that is negatively influencing your trade account to some extent. And then, of course, there was, unfortunately, VAT increases that affected domestic inflation to some extent.
Yeah.
And that was a negative, actually, that was created within South Africa. But it was difficult not to do that because we had a fiscal situation that was actually compelling us to do something about revenue. And that is what we saw there.
Yeah. Now, yours, Richard, is, of course, a leading indicator. And we saw those GDP numbers coming through yesterday showing the economy contracting 2.2%. So I'm beginning to be very afraid for the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, even those figures, it's an interpretation that I don't fully agree with, to just say everything is negative now. Because if you look quarter on quarter, there's a seasonal factor in there in all those activities, which is sometimes misread to some extent. But if you look at it again year on year, because if we talk business in the end of this year, at the end of this year, if we talk growth for 2018, we will say year on year. And therefore, I would compare the first quarter to first quarter, and that is still 0.9, which is the same growth rate that we saw throughout 2017 on average. So I'm not too much worried. I think, we busy, I would call this phase we're in at the moment in terms of the economy a restoration phase. We saw what's going on, especially in public sector institutions and even in some private sector institutions, where there was some maladministration and that type of thing happening. So I think if we finish with this sort of restoration process, and we can pay more attention to policy issues and move in the right direction with policy, we could see the economy performing much better.
Yeah, I see you are trying to remain positive, which is important because, of course, we do need business to be confident. But just one quick question, Richard, before you go. So you speak still of the government now needing to focus on structural economic issues. Please spell them for me.
Well, I mean, the first thing what we're doing is of course, the public sector management, local government management, that type of thing. And we can just think about what's going on in some of these local authorities. And there's no one business in South Africa that doesn't reside somewhere in a local authority. So it's very important that service delivery is not only in terms of households, but it's also in terms of small and medium-sized business. And at least we've identified all the Well, I wouldn't say all, but we've identified the majority of problem areas, and I think paying attention to that. This is the first phase, I think, of the restoration process. We're working on it. That's my sense of the things, and that later on, I think the economy will follow once we have restored that sort of situation.
Absolutely, Richard. Let's leave it there. Richard Down, who's an economist at the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry.